Last night on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Jeff, I'm going to start you off by what was a nice, relaxing bye week, ruined by the fact that three teams in the division won all their games, including a surprise in that Cleveland, even without Deshaun Watson and down to P.J. Walker, somehow beat San Francisco, and they really beat them up using their outstanding defense.
You know the defense that you hoped the Steelers would be? It's in Cleveland. It's better. I mean, take T.J. Watt aside, that is a better scheme. They are executing better, and they're more impactful. They're the best defense in football right now. I mean, the stats prove it.
Jeff, when you look at Jim Schwartz and what a difference, a highly respected defensive coordinator can do, in his career against Kyle Shanahan's offenses, he's 8-1, and he's limited them to 15 points a game. So he knows whatever it is to match up against a guy like Shanahan. And I will say that they lost McCaffrey, they lost Deebo Samuel, they beat up Trent Williams, so they had a lot of injuries in that game. But kudos to Cleveland for doing it. I didn't suspect it. How about the fact that most of the league is now either 3-2, 3-3? It's amazing. It goes this way every single year, and no doubt will go to the final weekend of the season when the Steelers play the Ravens.
Yeah, there are just a few teams with one win that are kind of already out of it, but everybody else seems to be in that mix. I mean, look, Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago was 1-3, and you're wondering, man, are the Bengals going to miss the playoffs? Now they're 3-3, they're a game out, and you're starting to think, man, they got a bye week, they can get Burrow healthy here coming up. Look out for Cincinnati. They're getting turnovers on defense, so that their offense hasn't even come close to peaking, yet they're at 500. And yeah, this division is going to be. It's funny. Mason Cole said today that it's a fun division. I don't think he meant that in a ha-ha, but if you're a competitor, you want to be in this type of division, and the teams in this division are able to gut out wins and kind of grind you down, and that's what we've seen. We saw that from Baltimore against Tennessee. We saw that with Cleveland against San Francisco. And we even saw that with Cincinnati against the Seahawks.
It's our GMC Sierra tweet or X of the night. It comes from College Football Report, James Franklin. And these are the numbers that matter in these big games. At Penn State, 2-11 on the road against top 25 teams, 0-9 on the road against top 10 teams, 1-8 head-on wherever they play it against Ohio State. And this week it'll be in Columbus. But I really believe, Jeff Hatthorn, that I think James Franklin and his team is better. They have a better roster. I think they have a better quarterback. But they are playing in the shoe. And for a young quarterback to play there in front of that crowd, that could be a difficult thing. They're going to have to go with silent counts and a lot of that kind of stuff. How do you think this matchup will go? Because the line now is 5.5 for Ohio State.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. For the first time in this matchup, maybe, I don't know if ever, maybe since Kerry Collins. It's been a long time since Penn State had the better quarterback than Ohio State. And it's such a big deal because so many of these games have come down to the wire. Ohio State's won most of them, but they have been nip and tuck games where special teams matter, where little mistakes matter. And if you have a quarterback, sometimes you can overcome those type of mistakes. Penn State hasn't had the better quarterback. This time they do. On the road will be challenging, but man, this is going to be this is what, Penn State wants Ohio State to be its rival. Ohio State has Michigan, but for Penn State fans, this is the game. This is their chance to really show that they've taken that next step.
Yeah, and if they want to get to the college football playoff, they're going to have to win one of these two games, maybe both, against Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan, I don't know. I've watched their games, but they haven't been pushed at all, so we'll see what happens when that occurs. Meanwhile, we got Pitt and Wake Forest. Nice win for Pitt. They made a change. The question I had last night for our Sports Showdown panelist, Jeff, was did Pat Narduzzi wait too long? Because if it were me, I would have taken Phil Jurkovec off at halftime of that West Virginia game.
It's tough. I mean, you want to give these kids a fair shake. You want to give them as much opportunity as you can. And I think Pat, in this case, probably waited a game too long. Maybe he could have done it a game earlier.
Yeah, and a big one for them because they were heavy underdogs at home against Louisville and beat that team, and now have a chance to win another at Wake Forest. Let's go to the Lions, Jeff. This is our number one Cochrane Go On Better caller of the night. We're beginning with Vaughn in Churchill. Hey, Vaughn, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing, Bob and Jeff? How you doing?
What's up, Vaughn?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Hey, quick comment on that Cleveland game. Cleveland played well, but the refs saved them because that first penalty cost San Francisco the game. Second of all, I want to comment on, was there a timeout that was missed? Because when that player went down, I thought Cleveland didn't have any timeouts, or they had one timeout, and when the player went down, that should have cost them that last one. Any comment on that?
It depends. You have to refresh my memory when that injury occurred. I don't know if it was in the last minute of the game. Okay, I'm not sure when that happened, but he's right about the official call. Because quite frankly, that was not a hit on a defenseless receiver. He did not make contact with the head. It was a 3rd down and 8, and got a brand new set of downs as a result. The whole game changed on that, Jeff.
Yeah, and listen, I agree with that. But didn't Cleveland have double-digit penalties too? I mean, this was a game where there were a lot of flags thrown. I think there were flags thrown on Cleveland. Listen, I'm not a Browns fan. I'm just saying that maybe this Cleveland team isn't just the Browns. Like maybe they've taken that next step because they have a better defensive coordinator, and their schedule looks promising for them based on the teams that they're going to play in the last 12 weeks of the season. I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be, and ultimately that's going to determine how far that Cleveland team goes. But because their defense is so good, they're finding ways to win ugly, and they're going to be problems for any team that they go up against.
All right, real quick, I'm going to get into the Penguins because they played 2 good games over the weekend. They went to Washington and shut down a Washington team, which I think is not very good, quite frankly, right now. But they took care of business on the road. They got a shutout by Tristan Jarry. And then Alex Nedeljkovic came back on Saturday, and I thought he was the reason they were still in the game at 1-0 after 2. And then, of course, 5 goals in that 3rd period. But Nedeljkovic played well. I think that's a nice pickup for Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, he looked really steady in net, didn't he? I mean, there was nothing spectacular. He wasn't flopping all over the place. He was just where he needed to be. That's exactly what you want from a backup goalie. He's got something to prove as well. Like, you can tell he's got a little determination about him, but he's cool with what his role is, and that's another big part. And listen, Bob, the other reason that this team is where it's at are the big 3. I think after that first game, Chris Letang showed a lot of leadership in calling out what this team wasn't doing. And I think Crosby's played well in all 3, and Malkin over the last 2. I mean, he was outstanding in that Washington game, and he's played both ends of the ice. I mean, when we've criticized Evgeny Malkin, it's for just playing, on half of the ice. He's been playing the entire ice, and he's been inspired the first 3 games. Obviously, that's why he's the 3rd star of the week.
And I also think he has a good relationship building here in chemistry with Riley Smith. Those two seems to, Riley Smith's been playing with some really high-end guys in Vegas. Won a Stanley Cup. He knows how to get things done in tough situations. I think those two are going to mesh well together all season long.
Yeah, I like their depth. I mean, maybe Lars Eller needs to stay out of the box, but I like that 3rd line with Eller on it. And I think the 4th line, there are more options now. I mean, Jeff Carter's like a step away from being in the press box as opposed to being your 3rd line center. That shows you where the depth is. And they actually have some players now in the AHL that have played in the NHL. So when those injuries happen, they have better options to go to.
Yeah, quite frankly, I thought a guy like Alex Nylander could have made this team. Radim Zohorna was another guy who I thought was good enough to make this roster right now. But they have all these guys down there, so if there is an injury or 2, and there will be, those guys are going to be good. What's your take on how Erik Karlsson has played the first 3 games?
I think it's a feeling out process. From everything we hear, that he thinks the game really well, and it's going to take some time for them to get on the same page. But I was impressed the first game. He blocked a few shots. You heard how he plays no defense at all. Like, he was willing to get into the mix, and I think he's going to be a good ad. Once it settles down, he understands Pedersen. He understands the power play a little better. I mean, this guy's a high-level player. He's going to fit into this system. Yeah,
he made 2 really good saves in terms of keeping the puck in the zone against Washington down in that game. But the way he did it, he made it look so easy, but it really isn't easy to do that. So, all right, back to the Steelers before we go to break. I wanted to ask you this about the starts. So Joey Porter Jr. looks like he's not going to start. I don't understand why. I've seen enough. They should have seen enough. And if it's because of tackling, which I seem to hear a lot of, it's not going to. Well, first of all, I'd rather have a coverage guy. Most of these tackles are occurring 15 yards down the field. I don't care about that. I'd rather have a guy who stops passes before there are yards to run after. I don't know why he's not starting because, quite frankly, he's been better. Short sample size, I know, but better than 2 incumbent guys who've been there, including Pat Peterson. And then left tackle. Who do you think it's going to be?
Man, let's see how Dan Moore's knee reacts. He was kind of a limited participant in practice today. Let's see how that is going forward. He thinks he's going to be able to play on Sunday, or at least be available to play. It's only one game for Broderick Jones, but I'm ready for the Broderick Jones era. I love what Dan has done, how hard he's worked, how he didn't give up, how he fought back and got that starting job. And you hate to lose the starting job because of injury. But when you trade up to get the 14th overall pick, and he's shown that he can hold his own in the league, I think it's time for him to be the everyday left tackle.
Yeah, I think so as well. We'll find out, because that's a game now that it would appear the Steelers have a chance, because the two top running backs for the Rams got injured yesterday, including Williams, who's I think he was a fifth-round pick 2 years ago, or in 2022. He was outstanding, 151 yards rushing in the second half alone as the Rams beat Arizona. So you can expect some passes down the field, and I wonder how they're going to scheme for two guys who are really good. Although Puka Nacua, who got a lot of targets in the first 4 games without Cooper Kupp, is not getting the same targets. Those are going to Cooper Kupp. How do you think the matchups work there? Who would you look to match up against both of those guys?
By the way, well pronounced, Bob. Well done. Cole Holcomb is a guy that I think his game has risen. I think he might get, or he's going to be in the mix. Not that you ideally want a linebacker on a wide receiver, but he's probably going to get caught in those situations sometime, unless they play, a lot of nickel and dime, which, I mean, when you do that, obviously you have a chance to give up the run game. But to your point, maybe you don't have to worry about that as much because of the running backs. That's going to be an issue. And I think obviously defensively, we saw what LA can do, and we know that Aaron Donald's in that middle and he can wreak havoc. So Aaron Donald on, Kenny Pickett crime we don't want to see on Sunday.
Not the way he can take down guys. He did that last week against Josh Dobbs. And if you want to get your opinion heard, don't forget to tune in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call tonight at 10:35 on KDKA+. So give us a call at 412-575-2600. We do it every night after the 10 o'clock news. For CBS News Pittsburgh, I'm Bob Pompeani.